I've always been someone who prefers the solitude of the road. Long drives through quiet, rural landscapes have always been a way for me to clear my mind. One winter, I found myself driving alone down Route 66, the iconic stretch of highway that runs through the heart of America. It was late at night, somewhere around 2 a.m., and I had been on the road for hours. I was heading to a conference in Chicago, and instead of taking the main interstates, I decided to go the scenic route, hoping for some peace and quiet. The road was desolate. There was no traffic, just me, my car, and the endless stretch of highway. The night was cold, with a thick layer of fog that clung to the ground, making everything seem surreal. The lights from my headlights barely cut through the dense fog, illuminating the asphalt just a few feet ahead. It was almost as if the world had shrunk, leaving me in a small bubble of light surrounded by darkness and silence. Around 3 hours into the drive, I started to feel a little uneasy. The stretch of road I was on was one of those long, lonely patches where the towns were sparse, and the only signs of life were the occasional dilapidated gas stations or empty diners. My gas gauge was running low, and I hadn't seen a station for miles. I kept my eye on the road, willing the next town to appear, but it felt like the miles were dragging on, stretching further than they should have. That's when I saw it. A figure standing by the side of the road. At first, I thought it was just my tired eyes playing tricks on me, but as I got closer, it became clear. A man wearing a dark jacket, his face obscured by a hood, standing still as if waiting for something. I slowed down as I passed him, glancing over as I did, and in that brief moment, our eyes locked. I could feel a chill run through me, not from the cold, but from the intensity of his gaze. I don't know why, but something about him didn't sit right. There was no car nearby, no signs of any activity. Just this solitary figure standing in the dark, on a stretch of road that had been empty for miles. I tried to shake it off, thinking it was just someone stranded, but I couldn't ignore the strange feeling that washed over me. I kept driving, my hands gripping the steering wheel a little tighter, but as I drove further down the road, I couldn't help but glance in the rearview mirror. And that's when my heart skipped a beat. The man was walking down the middle of the road, heading in the same direction I was going. I could see him clearly now, his pace steady, almost like he was purposefully matching my speed. He wasn't running or waving for help, just walking slowly, as if he had all the time in the world. I felt the hairs on the back of my neck stand up. I should have pulled over. I should have called the police. But for some reason, I didn't. Maybe it was because I didn't want to seem paranoid, or maybe it was because I was just too tired to think straight. I kept driving, but I couldn't shake the feeling that I was being followed. The man didn't seem to get any closer, but I could still see him in my rearview mirror. Every few minutes I would glance back, and he was always there, always walking at the same pace, his dark figure never wavering, like he was attached to me. I tried to speed up, thinking that maybe I could outpace him, but no matter how fast I went, he stayed the same distance behind me. By now, I was starting to panic. I wasn't far from the next town, but the miles seemed to stretch on forever. I tried calling a friend, but my phone was dead. Strangely, I had just charged it earlier that day. I fumbled with the car's radio, hoping to distract myself, but there was nothing but static. The only sound was the hum of the tires against the road and the occasional, sickening crunch of gravel beneath my wheels. Then, without warning, the figure in my rearview mirror disappeared. I breathed a sigh of relief, telling myself I had finally outrun him. But that relief was short-lived. As I came around a sharp bend in the road, the man appeared again, right in the middle of the highway, standing in the exact spot I had passed him earlier. I slammed on the brakes, skidding to a halt just inches from him. My heart was racing, and my mind was screaming at me to get out of there, but I couldn't move. My eyes were fixed on him as he slowly turned his head to look at me, his face still hidden in shadow. Then, without a word, he stepped off the road and disappeared into the darkness. I don't know how long I sat there, frozen. My hands were shaking, my breath coming in short gasps. The fog had thickened, and the air seemed even colder than before, I couldn't make sense of what had just happened. Was I hallucinating? Was I just so exhausted that I was seeing things? Eventually, I convinced myself it was just some weird coincidence. Maybe someone was out for a late walk or had gotten lost. I convinced myself it wasn't a big deal. But as I continued down the road, the unsettling feeling didn't go away. I drove straight through the next town without stopping. I didn't want to get out of my car, didn't want to see anyone, didn't want to think about that figure anymore. I just wanted to be somewhere safe, somewhere normal. But when I reached the nearest rest stop, I stopped for gas. My hands were still unsteady as I pumped the gas, but it wasn't until I walked inside the small convenience store to grab a drink that I saw it. A map of Route 66 was pinned on the wall behind the counter, with various marks and notes scribbled on it. One of the marks was near the stretch of road I had just driven down. I walked closer to get a better look, and I saw a small note written in red ink. "Beware of the traveler on the road. He never stops." I stared at it for a long time, feeling that same chill from earlier creeping up my spine. I turned to the clerk, a young woman who looked bored out of her mind, and asked her about it. Her eyes flicked to the map, then back to me, her face expressionless. "It's just an old local legend. People around here say that sometimes a man appears on the road following travelers at night. Some say he's lost, others say he's something else. But no one knows for sure." I didn't say anything more. I paid for the gas and left as quickly as I could. But I haven't been able to shake the memory of that night. That man, whoever he was still out there, walking down the road, waiting for someone else. And every time I drive alone, I wonder if I'll ever see him again. My name is Kyle, and I'm a truck driver. I've been on the road for over 10 years now, hauling goods all across the country. It's a tough job, but it's what I know. I've driven through some of the most desolate stretches of highway in the United States, places where the only thing you see for miles is road, sky, and the occasional truck stop or diner. I'm used to being alone on the road, and I'm comfortable with the quiet that comes with it. But what happened to me on one particular night, on a remote stretch of Route 40 in New Mexico, is something I still can't explain. I've never told anyone about it until now, and I don't know if I'll ever be able to fully process it. It was late, well past midnight, when I started down that long stretch of Route 40. I had just finished a delivery in Albuquerque and was headed towards Amarillo, Texas. I knew the road would be empty, just me and the sound of my truck's engine. I'd been driving for about 10 hours already, but I was used to it. There wasn't any particular rush, just the usual quiet drive through the desert landscape. The weather was cold, and there was a bit of fog starting to roll in. The headlights from my truck cut through it, barely revealing the asphalt in front of me. I'd been on this stretch of road 100 times, and there's nothing out there. No towns, no signs of life, just open desert. It's the kind of road where you can lose track of time and feel like the world's miles away. But on this night, something felt off. I first noticed it when I saw the headlights behind me. I wasn't in a hurry, so I wasn't concerned. Trucks pass each other all the time on long stretches of highway. But these headlights didn't seem to be gaining on me like they should have. In fact, it felt like the truck behind me was stuck at a steady distance, almost like it was toying with me. I glanced in my mirrors and saw nothing but the headlights. No shape of the truck, no indication of any movement, just the steady glow behind me. It was eerie. I focused on the road ahead, trying to push it out of my mind, but the feeling only got worse as the minutes dragged on. The truck behind me wasn't speeding up. I could see the lights reflecting off the fog, but nothing about the truck seemed real. It felt like it was following me, but not in a normal way. After a while, I pulled off onto the shoulder to let the other truck pass. I figured it was just some overcautious driver or someone else in a hurry. I slowed down, and the truck behind me kept pace. But when I looked back into my mirror, the headlights didn't move. They stayed exactly where they were, as if the truck had stopped, waiting for me to go again. It felt like they were staring at me. I didn't know what to make of it. but I couldn't just sit there. So I sped up again, pushing the truck back onto the road, trying to shake the feeling that something wasn't right. The truck behind me resumed the exact same distance, neither getting closer nor falling further behind. It was as if it was locked to me somehow. The fog grew denser, and I started feeling claustrophobic, like the world outside my truck had disappeared entirely. I could barely see more than 10 feet ahead of me. At this point, I was growing uneasy. I checked my fuel gauge, hoping for a distraction. I had plenty of gas, so I didn't need to stop for that. But as I looked back in my mirror again, the truck was closer now. The lights were brighter, and I could swear I could make out the outline of a vehicle. I decided I was going to stop at the next rest area, stretch my legs, and take a break. I needed to calm myself down. But when I came up to the rest area, the truck was still behind me. It hadn't passed me. It wasn't even showing up in my side mirrors. The lights weren't there anymore. I pulled into the rest area, my eyes scanning the empty parking lot for signs of another vehicle. But there was nothing. I checked all around, but the place was deserted. Just the empty lot and the cold desert wind. I stepped out of the truck, trying to clear my head. I stood there for a while, listening to the eerie silence of the desert. No sound except for the wind and the occasional hum of a distant engine. When I went back to my truck and got inside, I looked in my rearview mirror once more. The truck was back, almost directly behind me. But there were no headlights this time, just a dark shape, too big to be a regular vehicle. It looked like it was right up on me, but there was nothing in my mirrors to show it. I slammed the truck into drive and sped off, my heart pounding in my chest. I didn't dare to look back, but I could feel something, like a presence, staring at me from behind. I could see the reflection of the headlights in my side mirrors, but I didn't dare to look. I drove for miles without seeing any sign of the truck. After a while, the lights disappeared and the fog started to lift. I was breathing heavily now, gripping the wheel so tightly my knuckles were white. I was nearing the edge of the desert when I saw something up ahead, a figure standing by the side of the road. It was a man, wearing a dark coat, and he was standing completely still, staring directly at my headlights. I slowed down as I passed him, instinctively looking over at the figure. But when I glanced back, he was gone. There wasn't a sign of him anywhere, and there wasn't a single footprint in the dirt. Just the empty road, stretching out ahead of me. By the time I finally reached Amarillo, I was exhausted. I checked into a truck stop and went inside for a meal, trying to shake the strange feeling that had been following me all night. But when I walked inside, there was a group of truckers sitting at the counter, talking about an old ghost story that had been passed down along the highway for years. They said that sometimes, on lonely stretches of Route 40, a truck will follow you, never getting too close, but always staying behind. They said it wasn't just any truck. It was the spirit of a long-dead driver, condemned to follow travelers for eternity, lost in the fog. I didn't tell them what had happened to me. I didn't need to. They knew. And somehow, I knew too. That night, I wasn't just being followed by a truck. There was something else on the road with me. Something that wasn't alive anymore. Something that would follow me for as long as I kept driving that highway.